So in today's webinar, we're revisiting Operation Hampshire, which we first looked at in March 2022. And we've been working with the College of Policing, Oscar Kilo, the NPCC and our commercial partner Agilicis when we first launched the Operation Hampshire Power app. The aim of that being to enable policing across the UK to capture data about assaults and injuries of frontline officers and police staff. To set the context on this, police officers and staff face confrontation and aggression on a daily basis, on a regular basis, and particularly those serving in the frontline roles. But being physically assaulted is not something we should accept as part of the job. All assaults, regardless of severity, have an impact of some kind, some more obvious than others, but consider the impact on the victim and their colleagues, repeat victims and their families, and the profession. And this goes for both physical and psychological issues. And we can't overlook the fact that being assaulted sometimes is more damaging than the actual injury on an individual. We're all human beings. It's sometimes easy to forget the police officers and police uniform people are human beings, and they should, being assaulted and being attacked does impact on your physical and mental resilience. So let's get into today's session. I'm really pleased to be joined by Andy Rhodes, who's the National Lead for Wellbeing. And I know you're absolutely passionate about this issue. So what's happened since we launched the app just over a year ago?
Thanks, David, and thanks everybody for taking the time out to come on to this. And before we hand over to Dave, who's of course on the Oscar Kilo team leading this nationally and doing a fantastic job with many of the people who are on this call. So what's happened since the last one is the feedback from phase 1 of the app was that there are other things that we need to report on, that if we built them into a further phase of the app, which is the one that we've got now, would be a single one-stop shop for a variety of different things that we should be reporting on. We've got recommendations that have been agreed that we should report them: death, serious injuries, suicide, RIDDOR, for example, that can be included in one application. So that's what you're going to see today. I'm going to just say a couple of things really. First of all, just a reminder of the why question, folks. Yeah, we did a ton of work after the horrendous murder of PC Andrew Harper, and we picked up a massively strong feeling from the people who are out there 24/7 keeping us safe, that they wanted legislation to keep them safe. They wanted better kit, better training. They wanted better support, and they also wanted a recognition of the fact that being assaulted is a traumatic event, and however that assault occurs, ranging from the very serious to sometimes what we might think is minor, is often the thin end of the wedge. And the message that we send out to the public and offenders and society about what we'll tolerate for our frontline workers, and this is replicated in other sectors such as healthcare as well, but our people are out there with a specific role to protect the public, is absolutely vital to how we police this country. And Operation Hampshire is at the forefront of setting the standard for that. Why are we so interested in data? Forces are doing a pretty decent job across the piece, some more than others, in terms of collecting data, reporting data, and some are getting to the point of getting data insights from that data so they can feed it back into training, even how they construct custody suites, what type of kit they buy, etc. And we need to be able to do that at a national level. So you will be getting asked as a force at some point to provide national level data that's an expanded question set, this question set, the very short and easy one that Dave's put together, so that we at a national level can show people who are interested in policing, whether they are pro or against policing, but they can see the full impact of the assaults on our people across the country. And the second thing we can do is then start and use that national data to gain insights into the things that we can do to prevent people from getting injured. Kit, training, legislation, etc. A hugely powerful data set, and at the moment we're not collecting that. We're doing it physically, and by using the app we're going to be providing a very easy and simple way so that every year when we collect that data, it's going to be a lot less time consuming to do, because this will end up as an ADR request to forces in the not too distant future, folks. So thank you for your time. We don't expect all forces to migrate onto using the app overnight, but what we'd like to see is all forces being open to that possibility and making strides towards it. And so, you know, this is getting included. Operation Hampshire is a top 3 national priority in the police covenant, in the Peel HMRC inspection, and also for the MPCC and the College of Policing. I've just come out of a meeting where we are developing authorised professional practice for wellbeing. Operation Hampshire is top of the list in APP. So that's how seriously we're taking this, folks. So thanks very much for your time. Thanks, David, for the intro, and I'm going to hand over to the compere to take us through to the next point, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you. And it always gets confusing when there's more than one David on a webinar. So over to the other David now. Many forces have given us lots of feedback whilst they support the approach. In order to adopt the reporting, they needed to integrate into other processes. So I know you've been working very closely with our partner Agilisis on this. And so what's actually changed?
Thanks, David. So quite a lot's changed, actually. The original app that we launched last year only focused on police officer and staff assaults. We've listened to some feedback from forces that were keen to look a bit further into it, but were, they needed a bit more. So what we've done this time, we've overlaid a number of different question sets into the one application. So you now have an app that reports on police officer and staff assaults, but also covers a vast range of health and safety relevant questions, and questions that help us understand a little bit more around death and serious injury and some of those really significant issues affecting our colleagues. And it's all sat in one location. It's still designed from the user perspective. It's still designed to be user friendly. The workflow that's been introduced only presents relevant questions to the type of incident that a user is reporting, because this is really aimed at frontline supervisors to input that information in one slick, easy process. On the back end, what's been introduced, which hopefully Carl will be able to demonstrate as we go through the webinar, is a really swift data export function. So at the touch of a button, forces can access all of that relevant data for the issues of harm, physical harm that our colleagues are facing, so that we can aid analysis, so we can make better risk management decisions. And again, this hasn't changed, but it's still being made available or offered to forces for free, absolutely free of charge. The development has been fully funded by the National Police Wellbeing Service, and that means it's available to forces from today as a free offer.
That's great. So now let's have a look at it. So we're joined by Carl Dixon from Agilisis, who's going to take us through a brief demo, but there is more information available. So Carl, over to yourself. Perhaps introduce your role in this.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So I'm Carl Dixon, work for Agilisis, and I've been working with Dave and the College of Policing for the last 4 months, going through all those question sets, as Dave mentioned, distilling them down into some coherent requirements, pulling them together with version 1 of the app, and then working with our development team to develop version 2 of the app, which is the solution you can see hopefully on screen now. I'm going to do a quick demo, and I'm sure you'll have lots of questions. There's a lot of documentation that supports the app as well that we've shared with the College of Policing and the team, and that support things like how to install, how to use, things like that. So you can see here it works on all devices. We've got a home landing screen that gives a bit of information about Operation Hampshire itself. That's been updated to reflect the changes over the last year. We've got an application guide. It's quite easy just to click through here, as you can see on the left hand side. That gives a bit of guidance for everyone, as to how to use the app. Again, there's a much more comprehensive documentation guide that comes with this that breaks it down. I think there's a couple of key things that we tried to focus on when we were developing this solution, and that was there was a lot of questions. We wanted to make sure that we built it in a way that only provided the need to fill the questions in based on the incident. So there is some flow logic in here that I'm going to show that is only applicable in certain scenarios. There's optional questions and mandatory questions, which are flagged. Again, great if you can fill all of this in. The more data and the more information, the better. but time constraints and certain things are required, whereas other things are nice to have. So they are flagged, and that will actually prevent you from moving forward if you don't fill in all the mandatory requirements. There is a couple of different roles within the app. So there is a user role, which would be everybody would get this as a standard and they'd be able to report an incident, view incidents. And there is a manager role, which means they can view all incidents within their domain. So that for this instance, that would be per force. And that would be to allow people at a higher level to see across the whole force how many, assaults or accidents have been recorded over a week, over a month, over a day. And there's also some export functionality as well. So if I jump into report an incident and give a quick view of this, this opens up the first page, and we've designed it so that across the top here you have a banner and other pages will open up as you go. The initial page is to just get the incident down, and hopefully that's useful for everybody. You can pick the date here, so if we just pick a date, the incident itself, and there's some mandatory questions. You can see the difference straight away. We've got incident date and time as a mandatory little star here, and this one here is not mandatory, asking for an incident reference if there's one for the incident itself. Within this URN ID here, we can see it says system generator do not fill. What we're seeing here is when you press save and next on this page, you're going to have a URN generated, and that is going to be your unique reference moving forward. This part here, this type of incident is the key flow for the rest of the app itself. And this will determine what opens and what closes as we go through. So if we choose assault, you can see there that we now have multiple questions opening up, asking for more information in this instance. If we go to accident, for example, you don't have as many questions there because there are not as many follow-up. This will dictate the flow for the rest of the actual whoops, apologies. I did not mean to do that, apologies. This will dictate the flow for the rest of the incident we're logging. So if we go and log an assault incident here, saying did an assault involve a vehicle, yes or no, and we'll say yes in this case. Did it result in death, yes or no, we'll say yes. And did it result in injury, yes or no, yes. So then I'm gonna just whiz through here and fill in the rest so I can show you the flow in action. You can see again, this is not mandatory. I do not need to fill that in. I'm going to leave this empty for now, this force location, and I'm going to move down. There's some details around the reporting user and some free text for some commentary as well. So if I go save and next now, I'm asking the app to save this, log the incident and move on. You can see I've got an error here because I haven't filled in mandatory data. So that's throughout the app as well. It won't let you proceed until you do that. So if I choose my force and then I press save and next, it's now logging it to the database and adding it in. So we've got incidents saved successfully. And it's opening, it's just having a thing that's going to open up the pages. We'll give it a second. There you go. Okay, so you can see across the banner here, we've got multiple pages have now opened based on the information for the incident. So I said that it was an assault and the person was injured, they unfortunately passed away. And there's been there was a traffic collision in the course as well. So you can see all of the potential pages now for the app have been opened up, and I can now go through and I can fill in the rest of the details as I need to as I proceed. If I made a mistake and I need to go back, I can just toggle through as I go, or you can literally save it next and it'll just move you through the app page by page to the end, which is the HLS page. So I've come back to my incident. You can see I've got a green tick there saying this page has been filled in. I've now got a unique reference and it's started, and I've now got a status of started. If I now decide, actually, I filled this in incorrectly, did not result in death, it did result in injury, and there was not a vehicle. You see, I've changed my questions now, and just save that. And again, you can see pages have closed off that I no longer need, and it's intuitively updated as required. So this is how to log an initial incident. I'm going to jump now to my incidents log, just to go into a previous incident and show a submitted one. So you can see here, my incident log, we've got a couple of incidents. It's looking over the last week. I can filter on the date range. I can filter on a URN, and I can search. If I just go into this one here, I can access any previous incidents from this page that I've logged. And you can see this one is one that I've completed there. So you can see I've got my ticks across the top. It's telling me that I've completed all this. I've got a submit option here. So if I just quickly scroll through, I'm not going to, like I say, I'm not going to focus on fitting every page in, but you can see there's a series of questions on each page structured down the page for different information. And you would update this. And as you go through save and next, it'll just move you along. The only difference is the final page here, H&S, and there's lots of health and safety questions throughout this as a standard, you know, within the other pages. And this page here at the end is a lot of catch-all questions for specific types of incidents that will be relevant sometimes and won't be relevant other times. And we wanted to catch as much as we could there. Here you have your save and submit. So when you're submitting, you choose this. It gives you an option. It gives you a banner that says, "Are you sure?" And you are. You can submit that. You go to view all incidents if you're a manager. If you are a user, you won't have access to this page. As a manager, you will. And this, you can see I've got a wider range here because I'm seeing incidents raised by other people within the app. This is where I can export. I can either put a URL in, bring one up and press export. I just press that there now. And this will export. What this will do is this will generate an flow to my email and I will get a download to use. You can see here there's 5. If I open this up, go back, not up. This is nothing and it's brought back 98. So again, moving this will update immediately and give you an incident count over a period of time, and then I could export those if needed. If I come in here, you can see on my emails, this is what I would receive. Thank you for your download. You can access your data. So it's securely being sent through and you can download it safely. You also receive emails like this when you raise incidents to say, you know, thank you for submitting, thank you for raising, here's your URN. So you always get a follow up as well from the app itself. This is a view of the data, previous data I've downloaded. So when you choose your download option here, click it all over. When you choose your download option here, it'll just download to your downloads file, and then you can open it up and you have it in Excel. Very, very easy to use. You manipulate, add to data sets. So the idea behind this is it gives you a very, very simple export functionality. It's standardized. You can then use this across forces, and you can also use it with things like Power BI, Tableau to produce data visuals and things like that. That'll help you in the future. You can see on this one here, there is over 95 rows. So there's no limit on how many bits of data you can take out, but the more data you try and export, it might take an extra minute or so. And to the right here, you can see it's got all the data captured within those, within the fields. The end here for admin users, you'll have a user panel within here, and this can controls things like access, things like what permissions people have. The admin who install this app within the forces will control this. One note is, importantly, is once an incident of any type is submitted, whether it's an accident, an assault, a death, it can't then be edited unless they're of a manager level. So the idea again behind this is if this data is then used for reporting purposes or for red or for anything else, if it is to be changed, it can only be changed by people with the appropriate authority, whether that's someone in the health and safety team or the higher level within the operation. So that was a very quick demo, but I hope it gave you an idea of the functionality of the app and how intuitive it is, how we can export the data, and how we've tried to make it as easy to use as possible. Back to you, David.
Thanks a lot. That's a really great demonstration, and we could spend an hour going through all the different functionality of it and things, but that gives you a flavour and an overview. We've built on the approach from there and built in feedback. Just a quick question going to Dave Brewster next. You know, one of the questions that's come in is about a parallel process, but you've tried to build that into this process so that you don't perhaps need a parallel approach.
Yeah, this app now isn't just for police officers. This will cover police officers, police staff, special constables, and like any other health and safety reporting tool, it covers contractors, visitors, and so on. So this is a one-stop shop for all incidents of physical harm for anyone that's involved in policing, whether you are an employee or a contractor or a volunteer or an officer or a member of police staff.
And in terms of this, are you able to take data out of this for health and safety only if it's been submitted through this process?
Yes, you can do. So the data that Carl has just demonstrated is easily filterable. So you can take out exactly what you need for it for whatever specific purpose you're looking for. So, for example, if you're looking at understanding a bit more about the risk faced to officers working in custody, you can filter that out. If you're looking at incidents that are relevant to health and safety type issues such as slips, trips, falls, etc., you can export that data out and filter it out accordingly. So the data export function from this is pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. So I've just, whilst we've been doing this webinar live, had an update that the new solution is now available in the PDS solutions catalogue. So I'll just take you through how we can access that. So if I just quickly share my screen to take us through that. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. So it's a very simple process. Now, the solutions catalogue is only available to download the actual solutions to anybody in policing and ideally to the administrators of 365. But it is visible on the PDS website, so that's how you can actually perhaps find it the easiest way. So if you head over to the PDS website, head over to delivery and programs, and you'll see a drop down there that talks about accessing the solutions catalogue. And if you clicked on any of the solutions, you would be brought up, go straight into the catalogue if you've already subscribed and become a guest of the Police Digital Attendants. If not, you'll be presented with this little screen. If that's the case, go back to the website and click in here to actually request access. As soon as you request access, that kicks in this form. You fill in your force, and that comes through to our team, the business engagement team, and we'll approve your access into the solutions catalogue. And then you'll actually see the solutions catalogue, which is a 365 space securely set up just for policing, and then you'll navigate down to that page and be able to see it. So as we've been speaking, the app has just been updated in the solutions catalogue, so you can go in there, and if you're a 365 administrator, you'll be able to download it. And a really important point here is the app is your app once you download it. It's not like software as a service. It's there for you to customize and to tailor, and all the guides will be in there as well to help you to get the absolute most of that. And if of course you do need any help, you can reach out to the business engagement team who'll be able to take us through that. We've got a few questions in the chat, so let's head over to the questions now, if that's okay. So we've already started to answer one around multiple processes. Does the ability to make a referral of the incident to a health and safety at a click of a button? So are you able to do health and safety referrals from this, or would you have to extract the data out of this first?
All right, this is something that when you talk about referrals to health and safety, do you mean if something is falls within the category of being reported up for RIDDOR purposes?
Yes.
If that's the case, no, there's no automatic export function on this for that purpose, and that was something that we picked up on some feedback. Health and safety leads were quite keen, from my understanding, that it would be their decision based upon their assessment of the criteria and a particular incident of what gets sent up for RIDDOR reporting. So it's very much something that has to be assessed locally. So it would be a case of exporting the data, reviewing any of the criteria through filtering it out accordingly, and then deciding what gets sent up for RIDDOR reporting.
Thank you. There's a question in from Tony asking about will we be able to send the user guides to showcase the app. There are some user guides with it, but obviously the recording this webinar will be available to you as well. We've covered Len's question. It's a question probably for Carl. Where is the data actually saved? Where's the data source for this app?
So it'll be saved it'll be local. So it's you download and set it up locally. So the database and everything that's saved will be used for Dataverse for Teams, and it'll be all locally based within your own tenancy and secure.
Okay, and there's a question here from someone who's asking are you able to search for an individual person who's been assaulted? If you're a manager, can you look up people individually on the search criteria?
Not at this stage. No, you would need to use the URN for the incident itself. You could do that through the data, but not directly in the app at this stage.
Okay, and perhaps again, this might be a technical question for you, Carl. Can it be imported into the Power Platform environments rather than deployed into Teams?
It's be built solely for Teams as per requirements, just for ease of use and the ability to secure everybody access to it.
That's great, and we know that some forces haven't quite got further along to the power platform, but they have got further along in the team since we've made it the way we have done. And there's a question here, probably Dave Brewster. Does the app interact with Niche and Pronto to reduce any duplication of entries there? I'm not sure yet.
No, it doesn't. There's two reasons for that. One, because Niche is only used by about, well, I say it's used by half the forces, I think, in the country. Other forces use different systems such as Chris and other other platforms. And the other issue is that those are crime reporting tools. So Chris is a crime reporting tool. It has a specific purpose. This has been developed specifically to gather data on assaults and injuries. And as much as some of the information is duplicated, I accept that. This is aimed at frontline supervisors, so for their completion as opposed to the reporting officer themselves.
Thank you. That's a really important point, is this is about capturing the data at the time it happens as quickly as possible, that could be then used to trigger your 14-line processes. So, you know, we're not going into this blindly thinking this is just an additional. We don't want it to be an additional process. We want to integrate this into your existing processes as much as possible. And I'm sure that's what Andy's had to drop away from us, unfortunately, but I'm sure that's what he'd want to reinforce on that. I've covered as lots of the questions in there as I can do. And if you do need any more help, how do people get in touch with you, Dave? And what sort of support is going to be there? And what's your ask perhaps to forces right now?
So, yeah, thanks, Dave. That's a really good point. My ask to forces here is have a look at this with your eyes open and look at the potential that the data from this can provide. Look at the potential when it comes to risk management and understanding what we can do to support the well-being of our colleagues, not just from an assaults perspective, although that is my primary cause of concern, but from all incidents of physical harm. There is a really good opportunity here for us to gain a much greater understanding of the realities of policing. And I think that is, for me, would be the main reason to have a look at this. It does provide a really intelligent solution to better manage that risk. If you want to get in touch and want to speak to me, my email address is dave.brewster@college.police.uk, and there is plenty of support available for anyone looking to even consider adopting this app through myself and through our colleagues at Agilicis and PDS.
And PDS are really keen to continue to support this. This is an excellent demonstration of the strategy in action, the data strategy, the interconnected core technologies, all those sort of things coming together, and has been able to share and manage that resource. I'm just going to pop a quick survey link on screen. If you're watching this live, a recording, you can scan the QR code and you can actually give us an idea of what you want to do in the force, and we can then pass that data back to Dave and the team at the college, who can pick it up and to perhaps reach out to give you some more support. We've popped the link into the chat for those of you watching us live. But please just give us some feedback on what you intend to do with this and how we can take it forward. And of course, you can always reach out to the business engagement team, who are really keen to support in the adoption of this, because it's such an important thing. You know, many of us in the PDS work from policing. We've got family in policing. We don't want to see our colleagues being assaulted and injured, and anything we can do to help to change that is a really important part of it. So in the next couple of weeks, we've got some more workshops coming up, and tomorrow we actually got a workshop on internal communications, which we're hoping as many of you can join as possible. If you head over to the PDS website, you can find out more about that. Obviously, we've got our Innovation Today feedback webinar next week, which we hope you can join us, and we're constantly driving forward. And if you've got something you'd like to feature as part of our future webinars, please get in touch with the business engagement team, and we'd love to be able to demonstrate how you're using some of the other apps that are in the solutions catalogue, other innovations that you're driving forward. So thanks a lot for joining us today. Thanks to Andy, Dave and Carl for sharing all that content with us. It's fantastic to have you along, and thanks a lot. Hope to see us on your next webinar.